All right, 6 o'clock. Real quick, as we bring the meeting to order, I do want to mention some late breaking sad news that we just received. Our former clerk, Karen Donovan, who was our clerk for many years, passed away over the weekend. So ask that you keep her family in your prayers, and we'll have a moment of silence after the Pledge of Allegiance tonight in her honor. So you stand for the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll begin with approving or amending the agenda. Thank you, Rick.
Yes, I'd like to, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to remove agenda item 7.5 from tonight's meeting. City Council did not authorize anyone to go out on behalf of the city and negotiate an office and vehicle storage lease. And we are being asked tonight to vote on a lease. In my opinion, placing this item on tonight's agenda is not consistent with our bylaws, specifically sections 203 and 204. And additionally, at our July 21st meeting, the council did authorize the city administrator to arrange a workshop where the council and GCCAC members would discuss the current building situation and extension of that advisory committee. So voting on the lease tonight is premature, and I ask that we remove item 7.5.
Leroy.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Attorney, how would I go about putting it back on the agenda if he wants to remove it?
Mayor, Councilmember Summer, there is a pending motion on the floor right now.
Okay,
The first order of business is whether that motion gains a second. And if it does, then there'll be a vote on that. I believe at this time, your only pathway to keep it on the agenda would be to defeat that motion. Otherwise, it will be removed from the agenda today.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second by Markert to remove item 7.6, or sorry, 7.5 from the general business. I'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Aye. Motion fails 3-2. Any other changes on the agenda tonight, or I'll take a motion to approve the agenda?
I'd like to make a motion to change 7.5 to be a discussion only, not a approval of a lease.
I'll second that motion.
So we've got a motion and a second to change 7.5 to be a discussion only topic. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed?
Aye.
Motion fails 3-2. Again, I'll ask any other changes to the agenda. Otherwise, I'll take a motion to approve.
May I ask a question? Did the minutes get updated?
yes, sir.
Okay.
I have one question.
Leroy.
I know Stephen didn't have time, but you were gonna put the ditch mowing thing back on, didn't get on, but I guess we have it 2 weeks. With phone calls that were left on my answering machine while I was gone this last week about cutting the ditches, so.
So you want to add that to a future agenda?
Yeah,
Okay.
to the next one.
Okay, still looking for a motion to approve the agenda then tonight.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Leroy.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jay. Motion by Schomer, second by Soderbach to approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 3-2. No sheriff tonight. So we'll go to consent agenda. Those items on the council agenda which are considered routine or non-controversial are included as part of the consent agenda. Unless a council member specifically requests that an item on the consent agenda be removed and considered separately, items on the consent agenda are considered under one motion, a second, and a vote. Any item removed from the consent agenda shall be placed at the end of general business. Tonight on the consent agenda, we've got 3.1, the minutes from the August 4th, 2025 City Council meeting. 3.2, approval of payment of claims as presented. 3.3, resolution 2025-28, a resolution approving the transfer of local board of appeal and equalization duties to Scott County. 3.4, the Q2 financial reports. 3.5, approve updated development agreement for the Yellowstone to Credit River third edition. Is there any items that any council member would like to remove from consent agenda and consider separately? Otherwise, I will take a motion to approve consent agenda.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Leroy.
Second.
Thank you, Jay. Motion by Schomer, second by Satterbach. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Open forum. The public forum is intended to afford the public an opportunity to address concerns to the council. The public forum will be no longer than 30 minutes in length, and each presenter will have no more than 5 minutes to speak. Topics of discussion are restricted to local governmental topics rather than private or political agendas. The council may discuss but will not take formal action on public forum presentations. Tonight, beginning, we've got Mike Haberlack. Mike, if you don't mind pushing the button on the... We'll catch you at the end, Kathy. You're good?
All right. Mike Haberlack, 7905 165th Street East. So when this agenda packet came out, boy, did I get the text messages. Couple reasons. On August 4th, at the August 4th meeting, there was a motion approved to do an air, water, and a sewer feasibility study on this building. I'm assuming that we've done that testing and it failed. Because in the packet, I see we're ready to sign a lease agreement for a new building. So I'm assuming that that testing has been done and it failed. That's my assumption. I have no idea. Because there's a lease agreement that you guys will be voting on later on in the meeting. It seems a little bit of sleight of hand, where in this hand, you're saying, hey, we're going to do some testing on this building. We're going to have a workshop with the Government Advisory Committee. And this hand back here, oh, by the way, we have a lease agreement possible. And it seems to me like this just didn't happen within the last week. This has been going on behind the scenes, I can imagine. I don't know that for sure. I'm just guessing. But you guys have always been transparent, and I commend you that you have. You try to be on social media. You try to put things out there on the website. You try to get the word out. You're in the park meetings. It just seems like the optics aren't good on this one. I'm just saying that. So anyways, I'm reading the proposed lease. They're talking $5,300 a month plus various insurances, this and that. I don't know what you end up being at for a year, 65 to 80. I don't know. I'm going to sit down in my chair, and when you guys talk about it, find out in the budget where you're going to drop something else and add this now to the budget, because we don't want our taxes going up for something like this. So hopefully you can find it somewhere to take away from somewhere, because now you're going to add this. And if it is approved, I'm assuming that you're going to have 100% on-site work and no remote work, because now you're paying for a building. I just don't like the optics of it. It seems kind of behind the scenes type of stuff, and I don't care for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Haberlack. Mr. Bryant?
Mayor and council members, I'm Tom Bryant. I live at 7697 Crestview Drive here in Credit River. I'm speaking today about item 7.5, the proposed lease agreement with Kruger Properties for city offices and equipment storage. To better understand my comments regarding 7.5, a brief review of key council bylaw sections and ethical standards under the bylaws is necessary. Section 702 of the council bylaws requires the council to ensure the transparency of city operations. Section 501 states that the council meetings will be conducted according to the agenda. Section 901 allows the council to undertake and authorize actions that are on the council meeting agendas in only one of three ways: by motions, by resolutions, or through ordinances. Section 1401 requires the council to adhere to the highest ethical standards creating transparency in its actions through honest and open communication, and supporting the public's right to know the city's business. Now, on to item 7.5. After reviewing city council agendas and minutes for the past 6 months and recalling the bylaw requirements I just mentioned for the council to conduct business, there was no agenda item, no motion, no resolution, nor any ordinance authorizing a search for office space, nor negotiating any kind of lease. Furthermore, the 5-year lease would cost up to $400,000 in rent, taxes, insurance, maintenance, and build-out charges. The city attorney advised the city council as recently as August 4th that for any item that requires a city expenditure, the best practice is to obtain at least 2 quotes. Presenting this lease for approval during this council meeting in the absence of other quotes is not in compliance with this best practice. Next, on to transparency. There was no public notification that any action was being taken to seek out and lease space. This constitutes a lack of transparency to all Credit River residents in violation of the city council bylaws. Besides a lack of transparency, city employees should be very concerned about the Kruger space. Why? On the one hand, the council has authorized air and water tests of this city hall building, in part because the city's road grader used to be parked here, and diesel fuel or diesel oil may have leached into the concrete floor and soil and could be the source of the smell in this building. On the other hand, the floor plan of the Kruger space shows the road grader parked right next to the break room for the employees and employee offices, which could lead to the very same air quality issues as the current city hall building. This action lacks any common sense and ignores the concerns expressed by city employees about breathing unhealthy air. Moreover, as to transparency and openness, Agenda 7.5 states it was submitted by Chris Kostick, City Council. Would those members who did not know of this lease agreement before the agenda came out, please raise your hand for transparency purposes?
Did not know.
Did not know. Councilmember Zanto, Councilmember Market. Did you raise your hand, Councilmember Saddabach?
I didn't. I knew that there was not.
Thank you. Would each council member who knew about this lease prior to the city council meeting agenda being published this past Friday, please raise your hand? Mayor?
Your questions are inappropriate.
As for residents, we are left with no.
Open forum is for comments where the council is not required to respond as per the thing I read.
Mayor, I'm not asking for a verbal response, just for a show of hands for complete transparency with your residents.
Tom,
here
you got
tonight.
about 1 minute or less.
As for residents, we are left with no choice to find out who, what, when, and how this lease agreement was pursued and negotiated in apparent contravention of the clear rules and ethical standards contained in the bylaws. So this letter is a request under Minnesota Statutes, Chapter 13, the Data Practices Law, and we're asking to disclose all emails, voicemail transcripts, text messages, and any other form of communication by between the mayor, the council members, the city administrator, and Kruger Properties regarding the search for office space and negotiating a lease agreement. It's very concerning that residents must utilize state law to make a document request to learn how this lease matter came to be, as it was not authorized by the full city council. However, we will rely on the law to ensure the city council operates openly and transparently. Thank you.
Claire Holderly.
My name is Claire Holderly, 19685 Oak Grove Avenue. As a resident of this community, I'm deeply concerned about how the issue of renting off-site offices and storage has been handled. From what I understand, not all members of the council were made aware of these discussions, and no formal authorization was ever given to pursue this option. Yet now it's suddenly put up for a vote tonight. That's troubling. Government decisions, especially those involving the use of taxpayer money, must be made openly and with full transparency. When conversations take place behind the scenes without the knowledge of the full council or the public, it raises serious questions and erodes public trust, and that is not acceptable. And why now? The workshop with the Government Center Advisory Committee to review recommendations isn't until September 16th. We expect and deserve honest leadership that conducts business in the open, not in private. Transparency isn't optional. It's the foundation of public trust, and the council owes that to the community. On a separate note, school starts 2 weeks from tomorrow and our school bus turns at the intersection of Texas Avenue and Broadview. So I really hope the bypass lane is complete then. Thank you.
Steve Wall. Okay. Steve DeGroot.
Steve DeGroot, 19061 Margaret Lane. Thanks for your time. I just want to make a brief comment on the 7.5. You know, in this area right here that you're operating right now, you have about 1,800 square feet. You're proposing to go to 4,285 square feet, of which about 42% of that is just to house your grader, which has a home already, and your pickup truck, which you don't need. There's been advice, and I know you laugh about it, but that's my opinion. And I'd really appreciate respect both ways here. I think that would help everybody in the council. When you guys watch each other on TV, it's not a pretty sight. You should listen to each other a little bit. You wonder why people aren't wanting to work here. Normally it's because it's for the people who they're working for. You guys got to be able to listen, and we need a productive council, and just that little remark, that little interaction there, I think goes a long ways in what's going on here. Anyway, you're going to have 42% for something you don't need. You're going to spend $350 in rent over 5 years. You can do the math. You're spending more to rent the space than the equipment's worth that you have, that you don't even, yeah, there's a solution for it right now. And I'm just saying, wait a little bit, do some math, understand what your taxes, insurance, and utilities are going to cost, what the build out's going to cost. If it's $50 a square foot, it's $125,000. It's $100 a square foot, it's $250,000. I mean, that's just for the little area there. I mean, I don't know what you're going to want in there, but it's a lot of money to just do for a temporary solution. There's a lot better solutions in my mind. I hope that you take some time and at least consider that instead of just voting for the lease tonight. Thank you.
So I've got a Betty. How do you see your last name?
Kenyon,
Kenyon.
7175 196th Street East. Okay, I am asking about the space that you're talking about for the City Hall referendum. Why come we don't have just a 3-person decision out of 5 always here? Yep, it's always 5, 3 always. Well, we own a grader and a truck. Considering the size we are, contractors should be providing the equipment. And you're putting new tires on a grader. Who is the contractor? And why are we providing this for a contractor when I'd like to go mow your all yards and I want you to provide the tractor, the sharpening of the blades, the gas, everything else? This is backwards. And not only that, when I think about it, are any of these items have the city of Credit River on them? Any of those items? And Leroy, when I watched one of them and you were complaining about, oh, you're going to miss your drive. Do you know you're not even supposed to be driving it? Look it up. You shouldn't be driving that truck. So, and we don't need it if you're contracting out. Check with other people. Prior Lake, you got Lakeville. What's Newmarket doing with their gravel roads? And again, considering the size we are, do we really need a building official? What kind of empire are you trying to build here? My husband is a retired maintenance supervisor. He noticed a lot of mistakes being made, or maybe it's just intentional lack of transparency. Being a city, I thought, was to stay rural and affordable. But at this rate, we're not gonna be. I'm retired. I'm at a fixed income. I don't think we need to go there. We don't have a gas station, a grocery store, anything to help pay but residential. Thank you.
Kathy?
Hello. Kathy Law, 17570 Murphy Lake Boulevard. I'm just up here tonight to get on the record that I I have a list of questions I'm going to hand out regarding agenda item 7.5 that a group of residents put together, and we're just hoping that, well, we're requesting that you research these questions and then give us answers to them before you make a decision tonight on 7.5. So I will hand all these out. You guys can all have a copy, and anybody in the audience that wants one too. And that's it. Thank you for your time.
Anybody else for open forum tonight? Take, sir, Bruce, right? Please, Bruce, at the microphone. We got people watching remotely.
My name is Bruce Brush, and I have the property at 20101 Texas Avenue. I bought it the first of the year. I've been cleaning on it, working on it, ditch bores on it. It's a very nice piece of property. It's 25 acres there. I'd be willing to give the city a really nice, realistic financial agreement. So they would have 5 to 10 acres to build a hockey ring, have a place to walk around the park area. You'd have all that area. And then if the sheriff needs a place to park, he could park right there on 27. So I've talked to the city manager about it, and I didn't write anything fancy, but definitely you should look at that, because there's a lot of good property there that would really enhance and would not be expensive. And, you know, doesn't take long to build a building. If you want me to build your building, I can do that. It's not a big deal. But if you guys need help building a building, need help with property, I got it. Give me a call. Yes, twice.
Why not? Years ago. I've been out here 30 years.
Excuse me, ma'am. Bruce has the floor right now.
I was gonna use it for people who have gardens. You know, that way people can always have food coming in. It was something I was doing. I'm retired, worked awful hard in my life, and I'm just like to give back. So you guys have a reasonable property there. It'll be reasonably, it's access. I put a new driveway in. I can put power in by a month and a half. We can have a building there before Christmas and spend way less money than you are now. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bruce. Vern?
Vern Platt, 7210 165th Street East. As far as transparency goes, it's very transparent what's going on here. All these people and all the people out there, it's very transparent what's going on here. And you guys know that. It might come back to bite you. Well, no, let's put it this way. It will come back to bite you. Next question is, how can you, we know where this is going with this rent. How can you approve to rent this thing without knowing what build out costs are going to be? Let's do it this way. Does anybody know at this point, before you vote to agree to this, what the build out costs are going to be? Raise the hands, please. Okay. What is it? Okay, that's fair. One other question I have as far as build out goes. It sounds like the equipment rental will maybe have millings on it, in it. Is the office space going to have concrete in it, or is that part of the build out cost?
It's all poured.
The whole thing will be poured?
It's a white box.
What's that?
White box. I went over and looked at it today
Okay, good.
and viewed it, talked with the owner.
Is it concrete? Is there concrete?
Yes.
Oh, there is. Okay. Well, that's fair. That was my question. Was that?
Power, lights.
Okay, good. That's
It would be occupied.
okay. The last thing is, by looking at the schematic, there isn't room for voting there.
No.
So what's the voting be here? Okay. Asked and answered. I was just wondering. So then now you have 2 buildings to pay for and maintain. But that's fine. If that's how the vote goes, That's how it goes. So there you go. That's all I got.
All right, anybody else for open forum tonight? Hearing none, we'll close open forum and move on to general business number 1, Hullman second edition, final plat. It's, Shane or Steve, who has that one? Oh, Chris online.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
We can, Chris.
Awesome. Go ahead and jump in here. So, Hullman second edition, the city received an application. The site is along Texas Avenue, County Highway 27, 210th Street East and Longview Lane. Right-hand turn lane off of 27 onto Longview Lane is required as part of the proposed development. The final plat consists of 5 home sites measuring at least 2.5 acres and 1 small outlot. Each of the home sites will be served by individual well and septic. It's in compliance with the ordinance. The preliminary plat had 6 lots, I think, shown, but they've had to reduce the size of, they had to reduce the number of lots, which increased the size of lots 3 through 6 or 3 through 5, if I remember correctly from looking at it. But basically, there's no new roads proposed for this. The roads are existing that the home sites would have access off of. And again, that development does require the installation of a turn lane on 27 onto Longview Lane because of the number of homes that would be added there and the number of homes that are on that lane as it goes out. Parkland dedication would be required and will be in the developer's agreement. There's some outstanding engineering issues that Shane didn't have an issue going ahead and working through as a condition of approval. Again, all the lots are on individual well and septic and shown to be in compliance with Scott County. There's also a stormwater pond with unproposed lot 4 with culverts installed to assist managing stormwater on lots 3 through 5. City Council at this time is requested to review and make a motion to approve with conditions or deny the final plat for Hullman second edition. And then the resolution is included in the packet as well with a number of conditions, including that the turn lane get taken care of in terms of the review. Scott County is looking for more information to make that final determination. My understanding is that there would be a cost sharing between the developer and Scott County on that. We're not sure exactly what that split will be. They'll decide that, but there are a number of conditions that were put into the report to address that and to make sure that the city would not be party to that cost sharing. And then Shane's remaining engineering comments need to be addressed as well. And then a developer's agreement would need to be submitted and finalized. So, yeah, that's all I got on that one. Please let me know if you have any questions.
All right, thank you, Chris. Council members, any questions, comments on Hullman second edition?
Just pretty straightforward. I just have one clarifying question. Who's the gentleman? Chris. So do we have it in writing that the county's not going to ask the city for money? Or is it, is it in the resolution where?
Yes, it is in the resolution. It was my understanding from our development review and from working with the city staff on this, that was not part of the agreement. And that's what has been written in to the resolution, that cost of that turn lane would be shared between the developer and the county.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So it's in the developer's agreement because we don't have a resolution for approving this one. There's no resolution in the packet.
Yes, Mayor and Council. It is resolution. It's on page 53 of the packet. And that's going to be 2025-30. It's
Okay,
resolution
was it
approving
in
the
the,
final plat for home
report? The report said motion. -30.
Yes.
And Mr. Mayor, if I may, paragraph 12 of the resolution is the condition that says the cost share will be between the developer and the county.
Okay. All right, council, any other questions, comments? Otherwise, I take a motion to approve resolution 2025-30, resolution approving the final plat for development known as Hullman second edition.
So motioned. I'll move.
Motion by Markert, second by Satterbach. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. 7.2 Yellowstone Fourth Edition Final Plat. Chris.
I'm up again. All right, this one, I think we saw Yellowstone Third Edition, you guys had a resolution or a developers agreement revision on your consent agenda tonight. This is the fourth addition to the Yellowstone at Credit River. There are 6 home sites measuring at least 2.5 acres and then 1 outlot, which is basically the remainder of that entire kind of plat. There are other future phases in addition planned for the development, but in total, there'll be about 79 home sites when the project is complete. The lots are in compliance with the ordinance and the lot size requirements and the layout is consistent with the preliminary plat. The final plat proposes an extension of Whisper Way and Street 1, which it was in the preliminary plat that way. I'm not sure what that would eventually be named, but that should be figured out. Parks, trails, and open space. The park dedication is in the developers agreement, and engineering has some outstanding comments that need to be addressed that are conditioned as part of the resolution of approval as well. Infrastructure, again, all of these lots are serviced by individual sewage treatment and individual potable water wells. And the developer shall obtain Scott County Environmental Services approval for proposed placement of the individual sewage septic treatment systems within the fourth edition as a condition of approval as well. City Council is requested to review and make a motion to approve with conditions or deny the final plat for Yellowstone Credit River Fourth Edition. The resolution to approve the final plat is included in this packet, along with draft developers agreement, engineering memo, the final plat, and also a preliminary plat for reference.
All right, thank you, Chris. Council members, any questions or comments on Yellowstone Fourth Edition Final Plat? Hearing none, I would take a motion to approve Resolution 2025-29 approving the final plat for the development known as Yellowstone at Credit River Fourth Edition.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by Margaret, second by Schomer. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Secondary, motion to approve the developers agreement for the Fourth Edition.
Mr. Mayor, Council, there are some final details to be input into that agreement. And so we request that the council approve it subject to final approval by the city engineer and the city attorney.
Perfect. Thank you, Peter.
Make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Schomer, second by Zonto. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Moving on, 7.3 Scott County Ditch 4 abandonment discussion. Steve, I don't know, do you or Shane have this?
Made the presentation, Shane. Either. Shane.
Perfect.
Let me get it.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. So tonight, we're really just hoping to have a discussion with council about potential options for a ditch 4. And there's a, I suppose an option to have some direction following our discussion, but at this point, it's really just, again, a discussion about a couple of options. So a little bit of background, we know that Scott County is considering abandoning ditch 4. Ditch 4 is essentially the Credit River, starts to the south of us in Newmarket Township and goes kind of meanders through the city and then exits the city into the city of Savannah. So really we've identified a couple of options. One option is just the city simply takes no action. Scott County would abandon the ditch and no other entity assumes the responsibility. So that's one option that we're going to discuss. Second option is city assumes the responsibility of the ditch. And with the city assuming responsibility of the ditch, we're going to talk about a couple options for financing the ditch if that's the direction that the city is interested in further exploring. That will move to the next slide, just a location map. Again, this is the Credit River, so, this is a snip from the Scott County GIS map. And you can see in the dark blue, that's actually the DNR protected portion of the Credit River, and then the dashed line is, the excavated portion, and is considered county ditch or public ditch at this point. But it has a slightly different destination than, the dark blue. So no action, the no action option where Scott County abandons the ditch. All the property owners that, have been considered benefiting from this ditch were sent a letter, from Scott County that actually probably received, several letters. And the second paragraph, I'm just gonna read it verbatim. A full abandonment would mean that the responsibility of the drainage authority to perform maintenance of the drainage system ends, and the landowners would no longer be assessed by the drainage authority for maintenance. Abandonment would allow the system to remain as a natural water course. And any future maintenance, repairs, and or approvals would be the responsibility of the individual landowners. So that's a little bit about the abandonment option. Advance to the next slide. So, a little bit more information on what would happen if the county abandoned it. So the existing drainage easements would expire. Right now, there's prescriptive easements that exist from years and years of maintenance by Scott County, and those would expire. That means that no other public entity would really have a way to get on the ditch and correct an issue, even if they wanted to, if those easements expire. The creek would become under the jurisdiction of the DNR. So keep in mind that under the jurisdiction of the DNR is not the same, or does not mean that the DNR would correct any issues on the ditch. The DNR would simply be a permitting authority. If any entity desired to do some maintenance on the ditch, they may have to obtain a permit from the DNR in order to do that work. So under this option, the city would have no involvement or responsibility. But some of the possible outcomes is it's possible that a blockage on one property would create flooding on upstream properties. If that were to occur, it's almost inevitable that the property owners would come to the city hall, come to the city council, requesting assistance. We have assistance or requests for assistance all the time for drainage issues. This is a larger facility that serves a lot of properties, so we just expect that if the city chose the option to abandon the ditch and take no action. I'm sorry, if the city chose to take no action on Scott County abandoned ditch. And you know, if in that option, even if the city were, again, if we were interested in assisting residents with the project, it would just be a lot more difficult because again, the easements would have expired. So this, I think we already covered a couple of these bullet points. But again, the Credit River, at least a portion that's classified as a public water, that just means that DNR would have regulatory oversight and enforcement, but it does not mean that they would have regular maintenance or upkeep duties. There's no one that you can call to DNR and say, hey, I have a blockage or I have a tree down, you come clean it up for me. They don't offer that service.
Why do they have regulatory authority over it then? They don't do anything. You don't have to answer this.
Yeah, I can't answer that question, but it's pretty similar to you know, any other, a river, a larger water body. All in all, the DNR, for the most part, let the kind of nature take its course. And so if there was a blockage and it was flooding property, it's not likely that there'd be any action.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Market, if I could just jump in for a second, Shane, to address that question and to amplify the point that Shane was making about what the DNR will and won't do. Shane showed a slide earlier on about the blue, that's like the river, and then there's the ditch. If it's abandoned, it all becomes like that blue. It's just a river in the state. And the DNR's charge is to regulate all of the public waters of the state. And I might be saying this, overstating it a little bit, but primarily the goal is to protect the public waters, not to protect the people who are near the public waters, not to protect the private property. It's about conservation and protecting the waters.
Okay, thank you.
So again, there's that bolded statement on this slide. The city is not legally responsible for river upkeep in this option. That's a really important one. If the city chose to take no action. So the next slide, we're gonna begin talking a little bit about what it looks like if the city decided they were interested in assuming the responsibility for the maintenance and upkeep. So really a major benefit to this option is that the easements would transfer to the city. So there's a transfer process under state statutes that would transfer the easements. And that's why we at least want to have this discussion, because there is a benefit of the city assuming that transfer. In terms of what future maintenance activities would consist of if the city chose this option, it's likely mainly tree and debris removal. I think that's those are the most common blockages on a ditch. But it could also be periodic cleaning of the ditch. So sediment enters into the ditch, it creates, slows the flow, and creates a blockage, going in and removing that sediment back to the kind of the original grade. Would likely be a periodic maintenance item. As far as right now, up until earlier this spring, we weren't aware of any immediate maintenance items on the segment of the ditch. But now we are aware of some sediment that has traveled probably from an active erosion site or a ravine that you're likely all aware of on the Bull property.
And what property?
On the Bull property.
Okay.
West side of 27, right where the river crosses.
Flag.
It's just north of Flag.
Okay, right. And
It's
so
where all the water from Gray Fox and Lake Estates comes down to ditch 4.
And so if you're familiar with the tower property just south of Flag Trail, the water in the ditch in the tower property is at a higher elevation than typical right now because of that sediment.
Did the county know about this?
Not until somebody who's leasing the land said something to him.
Can they fix that before we assume anything?
He's right there.
I think that's an opportunity, Bill, where we can negotiate some of those pieces.
Yeah, and so if the city were to assume responsibility, there is an option of charging the cost of maintenance to the benefited property. So we're gonna talk a little bit more. We can kind of have identify two options. We're gonna talk a little bit more about those options later in our presentation. Yeah, so again, if the city was interested in this option, the city would assume the responsibility through a transfer process. We likely provide more detailed information if the city was interested in that option. And so really, if that were to occur, all the maintenance work and work that typically was the responsibility of Scott County would now become the city. And now we would have a legal obligation to maintain the ditch. So that's that is a fairly significant item to point out, because if we're aware of blockages, if we're aware of work that needs to occur, we would have that now this legal obligation to maintain the ditch in a reasonably safe manner. And then the city would just assume all the rights and interests in the ditch property, which is again the area that the county is typically used for meetings.
Mr. Mayor, Council, if I could amplify the point that Shane was making that's bolded on the slide. I'm responsible, I think, for the bold fonts. If the city takes this over, you have both the political and legal responsibility to deal with this. The city has with respect to any public property, the same duties that a private property owner has to make sure you maintain your property in a reasonable way so it doesn't injure other people. However, on top of that, cities have immunities. And if we establish policies that are well thought out and are balancing the economics and the pros and cons of what we can and can't accomplish, there's more to the story, I guess is what I'm saying. You're not a private property owner. There are means by which you can mitigate your legal liabilities, which is a separate question from legal responsibility. I'm talking about whether you could be successfully sued rather than whether you have a duty, an affirmative duty to maintain. And I don't want to get into the weeds on statutory immunity too much, other than to just make a note that there are defenses if you were concerned that someone may want to sue you about this. There's more to talk about. But just basically, if you take it over like the county has now, you can't take it over and just ignore it. You can't say our approach will be, we like a river, let's make it a river. It has to be maintained.
Thank you. Leroy.
So if we were to take over ditch 4, would we be also assuming responsibility of the Credit River all the way through the city?
Even the parts that aren't part of the ditch system.
My understanding it would be just the ditch.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer this or ask this. How can the county just simply abandon it? If it sounds like there's a reason to have it, there's a value of having it. Yet they ask people to vote whether they wanted to abandon it. How did they be able to justify even having a vote if there's value?
Well, I won't speak for the county, but I'll offer from the sidelines what I understand is going on. That these ditches are initially set up many, decades ago to drain farm fields. And we're in an area where areas are transitioning from farm fields to homes or other types of development. That's not what they're designed for. And so the county wants to get out of the business of dealing with ditches that were designed for a different purpose and are being used in a way that maybe they weren't designed for. And then there is a statutory procedure that requires significant public input before they can abandon. And I believe they're confident that they can accomplish that abandonment if they choose to move forward with it.
In fact, I think they've already have the required number of property owners that have voted to abandon. They held a public hearing already.
Yep.
And I think, thinking back on that presentation, that was the biggest piece that staff at the county suggested, is that it's no longer being used for its intended use of ag.
That's how they get around the 3 points. Like I watched the county board meeting a month ago, and some guy brought up really good points. There's 3 statutory requirements that they have to. And that's how they're getting over that, by saying this was not
No longer being used, and that the majority of the property owners wish to abandon.
Can I ask one more question before he goes on? I'm gonna
Yeah.
forget it. Have we done a drone? Like go see how bad it is? Cause no, I don't
Yeah,
know.
talk about market at this time, we have not, and it's something that we
We don't know what we're getting ourselves into really, right? Other than the one thing that you mentioned that we do know about.
Correct, yeah, none of the Credit River staff or elected officials have like walked the ditch. Maybe Leroy.
It's so overgrown, you have to walk it.
Really?
I don't know that you're gonna get drones
gonna
that
get
can
a
see a
little
lot of
dirty.
it. Yeah.
Remember the costs were like estimated $140,000 to $180,000, but the
They
sticking
never
point
have.
was that $250,000 study to determine whose benefits. That's the thing that.
That's the unfortunate piece about the statute that governs how the county can manage these, is that they are made, the determination of benefiting properties is a very expensive process. That, what was it, $3 or $4 per acre, right? I think that they had to.
Even in today's world of technology and.
Yeah, because the statute says that they have to hire some observers to be a part of this process, and they collect $3 to $4, but maybe even $5 an acre, just to look to see if it's a benefiting property or
So
not.
do you know if we would have to do that?
Well, I think,
Okay.
I think that comes
Sorry.
up in the financing options of this
Got it.
presentation.
Right.
Mr. Mayor.
Jay,
Do we know? The other question is, as far as vegetation, trees, we're going through a time where Credit River is losing a lot of oak trees to oak wilt and ash borer. And along this thing, one of the things that concerned me, if nobody takes care of it and we wind up with debris getting into the ditch, into the creek, river, it crosses through and under a number of culverts and bridges on city-owned roads and streets. And if we wind up with a pretty good rain event, is anybody concerned about plugging some of these and losing some bridges or streets? If we have a strong event, which is possible. I mean, it's always possible. That same thing with the property owners. If you go ahead and mow everything and clean up the ditch around yourself, but your neighbor doesn't downstream of you and it backs up, it's kind of a problem. And then if we abandon it, there's no authority to see to it that it gets taken care of. And once the DNR owns it, we would actually have to get special permission even to get down in there and do anything with it. So that's something to think about.
any other thoughts before we let Shane go to the next session?
All right, financing options. So we've identified two financing options if the city were interested in taking over the ditch. Option number one would be to create a stormwater district. In this option, only the benefiting properties would be assessed or charged for a project. So this option would really be project specific. Generally, how this is set up is there's a study, not a $250,000 study, but it's probably still 50,000. And so a study would be necessary to determine the methodology for assessments. City council would review and approve that. And then assessments are levied as projects are completed. So that would be kind of option one. Option two would be to create a citywide stormwater utility fee. So a citywide stormwater utility fee is a dedicated funding source for stormwater improvements. Again, the difference is a citywide fee is just that, it's would be applied to the entire city, to all properties within the city. And then the revenue generated from that fee would be utilized for stormwater purposes. Just for the council's information, many cities adopted stormwater utility fees at the same time that they were required to obtain an MS4 permit from the state of Minnesota. So the MS4 permit lays out several requirements for cities. And Credit River is a MS4. I think we've been an MS4 since the early 2000s. So with that, we just wanted to identify if the city were to consider a stormwater utility fee, what are the type of projects that we would utilize that fee for? And we've identified a few of them, and just with this list, there's a lot of possible uses. So ditch 4, Markley Lake, which is currently landlocked, we have a study identifying some options for that. Friend Lake, which is also currently landlocked, that's up by Murphy Hinterhand. Park Reserve, the Country Court wetland, the Bowl lock room properties, ravine stabilization, storm pond inspections, storm pond dredging, culvert replacements, storm sewer replacements and repairs, and water quality projects.
It's interesting, while you're on that slide, received an email from the city of Prior Lake recently that Markley Lake hit its ordinary high water mark again, first time in a while, which it starts the first process of the joint powers agreement.
Pumping.
We don't pump until it gets to, it's gonna get to be like 3 or 4 feet higher than the mark that it's at. But, so it finally got to the bottom level of that one.
Well, it's close to the walking trail going underwater.
No, it needs a few more feet. But it'll affect residents in Credit River before it affects the walking trail. Shane, go ahead.
Okay, so if the city were interested in a stormwater utility fee, it's a similar process as the city would complete a study to look at different ways to charge different types of properties and establish what the council feels would be the most equitable methodology for determining the fee. And then the city would adopt an ordinance to establish a stormwater utility fee and set forth that fee structure. So in the next slide, I just figured I'd show you a couple of examples of neighboring cities, stormwater utility fees. The first one is the city of Savage. This is a monthly fee. It's $6 a month. So, roughly $70 or $72 a year. And then, multifamily, industrial, they generally have more impervious surface, so there's a different way of calculating those type of properties.
Do you know if we ever implemented this, we could implement it as an assessment on a property tax bill on an annual basis versus a monthly fee being billed? Because we don't have the capability to do billing today.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Marker, this would not be an assessment process if we're setting up a stormwater utility fee, and perhaps Sue, I see her shaking, nodding her head about this. This is of the pathways that Shane has laid out, this is the one that would not be an assessment like we're going to do the study and who's going to benefit from this ditch, but rather this is a citywide fee that's going to apply to all of these property types.
Right, but
It would go on their monthly utility bills.
Which we don't have.
Only 4 neighborhoods have those.
We'd have to set, we would set utility bills up for everybody to do.
Is that the only method of that process to do that?
Well, they wouldn't have to do monthly, you could do quarterly. I mean, we have the ones that we do monthly, but the other ones could be done quarterly. A lot of cities I've worked in, they do quarterly bills, and
Yeah.
it's just, when I was in Lake Elmo, there was, a good portion of the city who just had a stormwater bill. Because they had wells and septic, so they just got a stormwater bill, and you could set those zones up separately, so they're just a quarterly bill.
Could this be done? Could this just be done in our budget and then it presents on the levy? I imagine you'd have to figure out how to do it properly.
Sorry, Sue, it looks like you have a,
It could be, but the advantage of having it being a utility fund, that means it's an enterprise fund. So if you had to do something large like dredging, or you had to go and do something, those are larger projects. And then you can bond for it, and you can issue revenue bonds, just like you do for sewer, or if you had a water system. That gives you the ability to bond to do that improvement. So, if you needed to bond for it and spread the costs out over time, is rather than, doing it the other way. Yeah, am I right, Peter?
okay.
Mr. Mayor and Council, the next example was from the city of Lakeville. I just snipped out an excerpt from their fee schedule. And again, it's roughly $60 a year for a residential dwelling. So, that gives you an example or some level of scale of what's typically charged. So the next slide, timeline. So the Scott County Board will make a decision on the abandonment of the ditch. That's scheduled to occur on September 18th at 10 a.m. So this is coming up fairly quickly on us. And then with that, as far as next steps, the first next step that we've identified would be to answer any outstanding questions from the council. And then really, after that, the direction we go from there is fully dependent upon council's direction. So with that, I think we can open it up for questions and discussion.
Perfect. Thank you, Shane. Thank you for Peter for that discussion. Council members, comments or questions?
Mr. Mayor.
I
think first question would be, what condition is the county handing this to us if they abandon it? If there's, I think we should be looking at whether or not there's a liability that's being passed to us. And that if they abandon it, we should make it be known that any current lacking maintenance is taken care of. prior to abandoning it and giving us a clean ditch. Essentially, you know, then we can choose to either take it over or not to, but if there are places in it that need to be maintained or have some action taken, I think that it's very important that we receive it or the residents receive it in a good condition. I think, you know, one of the other things is as far as doing, you know, either if we were to do a citywide fund to do this, I think that comes in the fact that I don't believe that there's a single property, or there may be a couple, but they would be outliers within Credit River that don't somehow use either a ditch, a drainage, a storm sewer overflow pond, or something of which the city of Credit River has the responsibility to take care of those. And we've got, you know, some 74 retention ponds within the city that are all going to need some sort of maintenance. And I think over time, almost every property owner within Credit River is going to be a benefactor of maintenance or a need for that. So like we did with our capital improvement program with the roads in the past, where we've kind of, that's worked very, very well. My thoughts are that we should be moving forward with trying to figure out how to effectively capture resources in order to pay for it, but come up with a maintenance program for these things, including this. And I don't believe that we should just ourselves abandon this ditch either, because I think there's some other problems that it creates, and we can't go back to it. We can't rethink that decision. So, I mean, those are my thoughts initially on this.
I agree with Jay.
Bill, 1 second. Shane, I think wants to respond.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, I just wanted to respond to Councilor Sauerbach's comment, because you know, we've had some discussions about the county doing maintenance prior to us considering this. And their response is, in order to do any action, to do anything on the ditch, that would trigger that need for the redetermination of benefits. That's the study that cost $250,000. And the cost for doing that would be passed on to our residents. So I just wanted to, before we have a much more discussion, basically the county's telling us that's a no. You get it in the current condition,
Again,
or you don't get it at all.
so just one thing on that piece I think would be reasonable asked, however, is that if we entered into a negotiation to assume these duties, is maybe some future partnership to say, okay, we understand that you can't do all this work today. We know that there's this sediment in this one area that we need to take care of. Can we, you know, assume that there'd be a future, you know, opportunity to assist in that, maybe engineering work or permitting work or something from their end of it that could assist, not run the project, but we could do the project so they don't have to do the full determination. But I think there's some opportunity for, much like we do when they turn back roads, right? They've often given us money for future maintenance considerations. So Bill, sorry about that.
That's okay. I agreed with Jay, but then it was a downer, what you just said. What scared me after watching the county board meeting that talked about ditch 4 is that there was one gentleman that said, county has a real mess. It's gonna cost $1 million to $2 million to fix this mess. And maybe he was exaggerating, but he seemed to know a little bit about what he was talking about. And so did some of the other gentlemen that were talking about it too. And I get concerned assuming a responsibility without knowing anything about how much it's gonna cost us to fix it. So I don't know.
You know, I think and I'll let Shane, and I know Leroy was out there too. You visited that site. That ravine though is not part of the ditch system. That little piece of it is not officially part of that. However, it is the problem that the water from the Gray Fox neighborhood running through a underground drain tile into that area all these years took a small little meandering creek, and it's now how wide is this thing?
50, 60 feet,
30 feet deep.
yeah, 30 feet
They
deep.
used to be able to step over it. And all the water from Gray Fox has run down there, and
Lake
Estates and
several other properties
up in that area, and has washed away all this, which is probably what's causing the sediment down in ditch 4 and blocking that up. So again, back to Well, it's not part of that ditch system, so the county probably wouldn't do that under the ditch piece. It is water from a Credit River neighborhood that is causing that big issue.
Well, part of the problem goes back to, the purpose of the ditch and everything else was to drain agricultural. And, whether it's rural construction that we've got going on or not, there's a whole bunch of impervious surfaces that are being added in roofs, driveways, streets, roads, ditches, and they're efficient at moving water. And so the good thing is at least that portion of Credit River is starting to get built out so that there won't be a lot more changes to it. But it is something that we should be considering because it is adding a lot of pressure on the ditch, and I would just say if we did take over the responsibility, at least we could lose the name ditch and call it Credit River again. So
Leroy.
Like it's back 2007. That the county turned back Murphy Boulevard to us. And that was probably the worst gravel road in the city at the time. And we negotiated with them over a year and a half. But they would give us 50,000 a year for 3 years. Fix the worst spots on the road. And it worked out really well. We repaired those and it's held up really well. So if we could negotiate something like that, so we're not coming out of the gate with empty pockets, would really be a good thing.
Right, because they said the fund was negative, right?
Yeah,
There's
right.
no money.
But they hired 2 people to run it.
Yeah, and very consistent with all the other ditches in that they were abandoning, that they didn't keep up funding the activities, so they all went negative, and that's part of their reasoning, because they don't believe that they can go back without doing these big expensive redeterminations to those property owners and collect any money. So it puts them in a tough spot for the county to do that. Their rules that they have to live under are a lot different from what the city's rules to live under to do it. But it does make it really hard if any kind of maintenance, if all those easements disappear.
And we lose the easements on day one if we don't agree to
If the
something
county
by the time
if
they
the county
abandon.
abandons it.
From what I read, that's exactly right.
Couple questions, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
So how does it be funded right now? Are they benefiting properties paying anything to Scott County, or Scott County is funding that?
Yeah, from my understanding, Scott County has been, when they've done work, and when was the last time they did work? You got an assessment?
Assessment, it was like $1.
It wasn't very much,
No.
right? It was probably several years ago. I think they did some tree clearing or something
Yes,
like
There
that.
was an assessment. one
Right.
year.
Okay.
Yeah,
They put it on the property tax.
yeah,
Okay,
yep.
so why can't we?
Mr. Mayor, I also recall, them cleaning out the portion of ditch just kind of right behind here from County Road 68 to the north through the back of the Crestview lots.
Yeah, I think
It
they
wasn't
actually went
enough,
further
maybe-
north. I think they went north of 21 as well. Did a bunch of tree clearing at some point.
Okay.
Yes.
In there not too long
Probably
ago.
about 10 years.
But you look down there now, you can see trees down and across the ditch up there.
So during that, then it was assessed to the
The benefit property owners.
Okay.
Mhm.
What was the conversation about having to do a $250,000 study to basically fix the problem? So am I hearing it right that Scott County will do something as long as we spend the money to make them do something right now?
You want to explain that?
So the Scott County's position is in order to do any further work on this ditch, they would first require a redetermination of benefits. Their determination of benefits is old and outdated, and
I think it was 1970s vintage.
I believe that's correct. And so, they've been advised that they can no longer use the current split that they have. So as a kind of requirement or a predecessor to do any work, they'd have to first do that redetermination of benefits. That requires special ditch viewers. And that cost is $250,000. Well, that's before you even put a shovel in the ground or to remove a tree. Then they would also do the project. And so let's say that's another couple $100,000. the total amount of the assessment may be $450,000 spread across the benefited properties.
Okay, so this just had to do with the recent switch and how they were determining this process, not in the past, that we didn't have to prove or didn't have to do
That
that.
is correct. In the past, they've done projects using an old determination or old kind of a split.
Okay. My other question back to assessments, so can I get a little bit more clarification? Why can't we assess on taxes? That was not very clear to me.
Well, yeah, I think, so with the stormwater utility fee, and that's something that we could maybe have some more discussions with the county on whether or not we could collect a fee through like the annual tax statements.
Like a line item?
I believe that's done in other cities, or maybe Michael has a.
I don't have an answer for utility fees being put on taxes. But Shane mentioned two different funding mechanisms. Creating a district, then we would use assessments. And creating that district would require hopefully not a $250,000 study, but a study to figure out who the benefited properties are, who would then be assessed. But that would only fund the work for that district. Whereas the utility fee that Shane was talking about would be a citywide stormwater utility fee to handle all of the stormwater infrastructure of the city. And that one is not an assessable type of fee.
So in the
That's
district,
more of a service charge.
yeah, in the district example, we would have to go through public hearing every time we were to do a work and do just like a 429 process. Is that type of assessment, or is it?
Mr. Mayor, I think the 429 process is a very good analog for it. The statute's not built out nearly as comprehensively as 429.
Yeah.
Which would lead me to be giving you advice based on that analog.
Yep.
So I would say yes.
Okay.
And we can't have a district of Credit River.
Like the whole city?
Yeah.
You certainly
If
could.
you determined that was the benefiting properties was everywhere, then I imagine you could, right? And to that point, you know, it depends on what you're gonna include in that, what drainage pieces you're including in that, right? So, while I would suggest that probably 80% of the city, if you just look at the map, you can kind of tell that utilizes ditch 4 somewhere or another for its stormwater. I believe there are pieces that don't hit ditch 4.
Well, there are. I mean, there's a number of captured non-draining water retention places. Yeah, you know, that's somewhere.
Right.
And they all need maintenance. And, you know, we've talked about it ever since I got elected, but it's, I mean, it's been an ongoing thing. It's not totally been addressed. So this is an opportunity to actually set a policy throughout, figure out what we have, set up a maintenance program for it so that it's structured and, you know, just move into the future with it.
Any other questions or comments?
There's no benefiting properties outside of Credit River for ditch 4, are there? Where we couldn't build anymore, these are all benefiting properties within Credit River.
Bill, if I remember from the county data, that they had determined that there's some benefiting properties went into New Market Township. No, I don't believe that we would be able to.
That's from the Credit River.
Yeah, from ditch 4. Ditch 4, the benefiting property role included some properties in New Market Township.
They drain into.
They do. They did it in ditch 4 upstream
water
of.
moves
Not a material number of properties.
I can't answer that. Bill, all I remember is that in the original discussion, and I believe that was at the public hearing that they held down at Spring Lake Township Hall, you know, back 2 years ago, I think it was, that they even identified on there that there was some properties in New Market Township were part of their benefit roles. And maybe even Spring Lake.
Yeah, it almost looks like it doesn't show completely, but.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Marker, establishing the stormwater district is limited to the city's jurisdiction within the city itself.
Outside of our city.
Right.
No, we put up a dam. Not accept their water.
Yeah. So we have one meeting, one more council meeting between tonight and when the county will have this back on their agenda again on the 18th. There was no action tonight in staff report. I think this is more just informational. Is there any direction that you'd like to give staff for any other research or comments for an item on the next agenda?
Yeah,
Bill?
Could the city administrator maybe talk to the county about what they could do to help ensure that we're getting a clean ditch? And if it's not clean, that they offer some type of financial or
Some partnership, some
Yeah.
sort of partnership
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we would. I think that's something that we should definitely negotiate and is knowing that we do know that there's at least a sediment problem up over here.
Yeah.
That, you know, whether it's, you know, permitting, engineering work, I don't know, right? I mean, I think that there would definitely need to be some sort of a partnership since there is an identified concern.
It sounds to me we can't do a drone look because everything is overgrown, especially at this time of year.
You think about north of 21 there and how heavily treed that is for the first
Yes.
quite a bit. Yeah, I mean, you can look down there from the county road and see up there and there's,
Okay.
oh, you can see trees down across it. I think it's been 10 years since they went up there and took the trees down up there. It's been a while. Remember how long ago that was? Yeah.
Well, the bigger problem is the trees that have died. God, you know, they drop
Yeah.
into that thing and you get a water event and it pushes everything together and it's a big beaver dam.
Are they doing this with other ditches?
Yeah.
And what are the other cities? Do you know what other cities have done?
So none of them are in cities. They're in townships.
What happens with your township?
It's the same
thing.
opportunity. But I think most of those, from listening to the different public hearings and stuff over the last year, they've been working on this for a year or so. I don't recall any of them that had as big of an effect on individual properties as this one does. They're all a lot smaller in length. They, you know, mostly, you know, cover areas that are, you know, down in ravines and stuff like that. There was one that I don't know how they handled that. They might have not solved this one, but when Highway 13 was reconstructed, that they believed the elevation of the culvert under the road was at the wrong height. So I think there might be still some action open on that one yet, but other than that, I think most of them they abandoned.
Is it easier for the county to abandon a ditch in a township versus a city? Or not? Is there any?
Same procedure.
Same procedure.
Okay, do they have more responsibility in the township since?
No, it's a perfect analog. It's the same.
Okay, thank you.
Do we know how many letters went out to how many property owners? Do we know how many replied? Do we have any kind of data like that?
Yeah, they gave a map at the meeting of how many were sent out, how many responses, how many were abandoned, how many were kept. But the important thing is they met the number of abandonment requests to go ahead and abandon. So it was overwhelmingly to abandon it. But they did have a lot of non-responses.
Question. If they didn't know how many properties are benefiting to start with and need this study, how did they know exactly how many they had to make their quorum?
Well, they sent it out to the current benefiting properties.
They were.
And if you take a look at the letter they sent out, the wording was kind of twisted, so you weren't really sure if you were gonna yes or no was gonna abandon it or not. It was very confusing.
You probably got one, huh, Bill?
I got one. I voted no because I didn't like the $250,000 cost to determine who benefiting properties. I was okay with the 140 and the 70.
With the maintenance.
Right.
But determination of
give you a-
benefits, right, that's the piece that's with the way the county rules that they have to follow is problem, is that's, you know, that's hanging over their head, that the cost to redetermine the benefiting properties is
greater than.
Is more expensive than any of the maintenance, yeah.
Is there a way to get our hands on one of those copies of those letters?
Yeah, sure.
I'd love to
I
see.
just sent you the map too that they showed at the county board meeting that shows the breakout of where it was.
That'd be great.
You want Steve to send you the letter or do you want, I could send you my letter?
I'd just like to get my hands on it.
Yeah, and same here.
Yeah, the city got one as well, so
Oh, yeah.
it
Yeah.
was in some meeting.
Yeah, it was in the weekly,
Oh, okay.
weekly notes
Yeah.
already
Yeah.
once, yeah.
All right.
When we had that first conversation, or you're talking about a weekly update?
That was back when Eric was here. Eric
Yeah.
had sent that out. I think it was
Then I have,
maybe November.
I have.
Mhm.
But I will.
If you can find it, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah. Because we do have property that's within the benefit rule. I think
Yeah.
this property is, or I think our property north of 21 clearly is.
Yeah. Okay.
And the city
Thanks for
responded
all that.
not to abandon.
Mhm. So, all right, so is there anything else that prior to having this back on our agenda again in September, that we want staff to, take a look at? Okay. Steve, anything else you need? Peter, Shane, any final?
I guess I have something to add. It would be nice maybe if we could research if there's any other cities nearby that have like an all city district to see what they're doing or how they're doing it.
Are you thinking like a district for one single purpose?
Yeah,
Or
basically
just in general stormwater?
general, all stormwater, whether it be retention ponds, culverts. And we've been spending money, obviously, on street culvert repairs, different things, you know, the stuff comes up. So we have stuff that comes up that needs to be addressed immediately. And then I still think that we need to have, because we have just this growing backlog of things that are out there that should be maintained. And I think we should get a handle on that sooner than later to try to do that. So, I mean, my thoughts are really on trying to figure out how to spread the cost and treat everybody as a benefiting property. I mean, there might be a few that aren't, but you know, we can easily identify those. But I think they're going forward, I think as a, you know, it's a city, it could be a city thing and it could actually work very well like the capital improvement program on roads. And we've definitely upgraded the roads a lot over the years and everybody benefits from that.
All right. Sounds good. Last call, anything else? All right, let's move on to 7.4 city clerk position recommendation, Administrator Jelinski.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, thank you. We had a very large response to our city clerk advertisement. So that was very good. And we had a lot of qualified individuals. We had about 6 that were very qualified and 3 that were very qualified and within close proximity to the city. We did interview 3 of them. They all had great qualities, and we, in the end, would like to recommend Linda Jurek for city clerk. Linda has a lot of experience with both county and municipal positions. Most recently was a city clerk, has a lot of election experience and would be coming with a lot of knowledge, and we feel that would be Councilmember Zonto and Mayor and I as the hiring committee that would do a very good job for the city. And so included in the packet is an offer of employment to Linda, which if you have any questions on, it is quite similar to the last clerk's position. You can see the wage, which did fall within the hiring range that you all approved. And the only change would be an additional week of PTO based on her large amount of experience in municipal government. So.
Perfect. Thank you, Steve. Council members, questions or comments?
Just to piggyback, during that interview process, like Steve mentioned, there were 3 great candidates, and I think Linda just came in with some further experience. I think a great face to the organization, and I would highly recommend her for this position.
Agreed. You know, we had as Steve mentioned, we had a very large pool of applicants. You know, when it came down to the three that we, wanted to interview, it was, difficult to narrow it down to that three from the, several that we had as our options. But, Linda, I think, has a great personality. I think she'll do well as the face of the organization, as most people who interact with the city start at the clerk. I think this would be a very good opportunity to have a good face to our residents and anybody else that comes into the, city to do business with us. So again, as Abe mentioned, I would also recommend that we approve the hiring agreement. With that,
One more
questions?
question,
Bill?
one more question. The starting wage, is that the same as what we were paying the former city clerk? Was it higher?
It's a little bit higher.
Just a little?
Yeah, less than $1.
We looked through, yeah, well, as we were talking through this, we did do another salary review, and it's right in line with all of the smaller local municipalities.
Okay.
With that, if everybody's comfortable, I'll take a motion to approve the conditional offer of approval. The offer of employment to Linda Jurat.
So moved.
Well,
Second.
I'll take Jay for the motion and Abe for the second. Motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Linda, by the way, is in the audience here tonight, right in the middle of the room. Welcome, Linda. All right. So we'll move to 7.5. Consider a lease agreement for office and equipment storage space. So this opportunity, so I took it upon myself, as I've had some on and off conversations for a while with this property owner. Kind of letting it go because we had a committee that was working on solutions for our building. And then recently, when we've received information from former employees, and then we've also had several residents standing in our open forum saying that we need to take care of something for our employees. I wanted to bring this forward as an opportunity to find some sort of a solution that we can look at to talk about that may, solve our short-term needs as we continue on the process of working on some long-term needs. So this doesn't, stop any other process. I know we have a workshop coming up to talk about this, but it does start, looking at a opportunity where we could, initiate this lease and have a space that, protects the health and wellness of and security of our employees, while we work on some long-term needs. I think, why now? Because again, just as soon as the last council meeting that we're at, we had another resident speak in open forum, talking about, making sure that we take care of our employees' needs and health and wellness. We are still working on some other, solutions around this building, maybe, doing some air quality tests and stuff like that were conducted today. And, also working with a provider to look at, what it would cost to do some septic analysis on this piece of property. This particular opportunity also does come with a little bit of a timeline because these buildings are almost completed. And it's likely that once they're all completed, they'll all be rented. So it does.
What's the vacancy rate today?
The last time I talked to him, he said he had several of them rented.
What is the vacancy rate though?
I don't know, Bill, but he says once they're done, they generally rent faster.
Okay.
So
I'd like to make a motion to table voting on this lease tonight. And so we can have our workshop that we all agreed to and scheduled in September.
I'll second that.
further discussion?
I'd like to get it up there and have some discussion on it. So, that's, you guys, you've got a motion up and seconded.
And my
Let's
motion
get
is to
that.
vote on the lease, because that's what's in the agenda. I'm all for discussing things. But we've never discussed it. We're voting for it tonight.
You know,
So
nobody's ever stopped any other council person from, researching something and put it on the agenda. That's,
I received this at 3 o'clock or whenever it was released to the public.
Yeah.
On Friday afternoon, and I also take, I'm not sure it's valid for you to take it upon yourself, Mr. Mayor, to go out and negotiate things on behalf of the city without having authorization by the council to go out and authorize things. I also believe that what you did is a city administrator duty, not a mayor's duty, to go out and look for leases. So those are some of the issues I have with this, and I'm just asking that first it would be taken off the agenda tonight, but now table it so we can have a discussion. We set up a workshop to talk about the building issues. And unfortunately, it's not until next month, but it is what it is. And that's why I actually asked, let's do this in 30 days when I requested that workshop. I apologize that it's taking 60 days to get the workshop to happen, but that's my rationale for asking that we table it tonight, because the agenda item says we're gonna vote on it. There's no other alternative there. Typically, we have alternatives.
It doesn't mean there aren't alternatives, Bill. The alternatives can happen at any time. On any item on the agenda, alternatives can happen.
Well, my motion was made. I think I heard a second, so.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Margaret, if I could clarify the motion during the discussion. I wasn't sure if the entire item was being tabled or you wanted to leave discussion available and only table the voting.
I would like to table the entire agenda item until we have the workshop that was scheduled for September 16th.
And that was your second, Councilmember.
Sure.
Okay, so I've got a motion and a second to table this entire agreement till following the workshop. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Aye.
Motion fails 3-2. I'm gonna ask for order in the council room here. This is a council discussion right now. So,
Mr. Mayor, I have a question for the city attorney. What can happen if a council member or mayor goes out and roguely negotiates something on behalf of the city without receiving authorization to do that? What can the city council do? Or can anyone do this? And as long as you get 3 votes, or you get a majority vote, that you can do anything.
Those are really important questions, and I'll do my best to call it straight and answer all of these questions. It's purely legal perspective, not the disputed policy decisions you guys have to wrestle with. Generally speaking, a single elected official doesn't have any authority to go out and conduct any kind of business on behalf of the city unless the council as a body delegates that authority to them. This type of work is the city administrator's work. That what can happen to the city is in a context like this, essentially nothing, because as I understand the history, I also don't know more about it than what's in the packet, is that this is being brought to the council without any promises or any purported authority to have made a deal, but rather that it would come to the body to decide. And so 2 pathways happen when a council member, and with all due respect, it's very commonly the mayor who's of a city, not you, Chris, who is engaged with the community and might bring opportunities forward. 2 things can happen. One is the council can sort of disavow that this is happening and shut it down. The council can ratify it and say, good, keep it going. And historically, in my relatively short tenure with the city here, almost 2 years now, the transition from town board with no real staff, no city administrator, to having a city with a city administrator, there has been an institutional practice of various council members reaching out and bringing things forward without the sort of the formality of the whole council as a body deciding. The letter of the law is that's an informality. It's not the formal correct process, legally speaking.
So does that put the city in jeopardy of being sued by from the residents?
No, not at all. There's very good case law on this where even if, which did not happen, but even if the mayor had gone out and, let me make it completely hypothetical, assuming Shane had gone out and signed a contract and said, I'm authorized by the council to do this lease for our public works equipment, and he never had that authority. The city is not bound by that. There's a rule of law that says nobody has apparent authority to act for a city. You either have actual authority or you have no authority. And so that document, if a council member signs something saying they're doing it on behalf of the city without your authority, that document is null and void as though it never existed. So there's no liability to the city in this context. And that would be if you had taken it further. It can cause trouble in terms of future negotiations, things like that. There's good reasons why the law places on the administrator rather than an individual elected official the duty to go out and run these day-to-day inquiries, investigations, engagements, and then bring something to the council as sort of bringing something to my manager. That's a different dynamic than if one of you does it. And so it's a kind of a long answer, but I think I've answered your question. Have I?
Yes, for the most part you did. At the beginning, you said that the city administrator, it's typically a city administrator's job to do what was done with this lease agreement going out. And I mean, it must have been negotiated. There's all sorts of terms and conditions in this, and it's asking to be voted on tonight. To me, that's a city administrator job. And the mayor took it upon himself to do it. And if that's the case, how can we vote for something that was done inappropriately? It wasn't even, I think it's against our bylaws too. And I mentioned a couple sections that I've read seem to be consistent with what I'm saying.
So
Does that make sense?
It does. It's a really good question, but for the same reason that the mayor couldn't make you do this by going out on his own, he also can't stop you from doing it by going out on his own. So if the council likes this deal, nothing about the way it's been presented stops the council from proceeding with this deal. If you don't like the deal, then you vote it down.
Okay.
There's nothing binding or negotiated in this. It's a standard lease agreement. It was just an example, Bill. It's, bringing a solution.
There's other
to
solutions,
this.
Mr. Mayor, than one
Okay.
agreement. And
Then
this is
have
a
that-
$400,000 contract. We don't even know the bill of costs. There's a whole bunch of good questions on here that we haven't talked about, and we're being asked to approve the lease tonight without going out and looking at other opportunities. There's certainly cheaper alternatives. There's a whole bunch of issues with the contract itself. I didn't want to get into that yet because I think it's premature because we're going to have a workshop to talk about all this stuff. But I can certainly do that. Do we take a vote on the motion second?
We did.
Yeah, we already lost.
Okay,
Mhm.
sorry, I lost my train of thought. Very frustrated.
I personally don't know what we're trying to solve, to be honest. I don't get it. We're voting for something. We have no TI in the agreement. We don't know, is that gonna be $100,000, $250,000? We're going to approve this and not know what that is. I think that's highly irresponsible. I also looked at some leases that I have privy to from my day job in downtown Minneapolis. It's 53 cents per square foot, and this is 1.26 cents per square foot. I think that's highly off the mark as well. So I'm pretty concerned about that due to the timing that we have. I don't think there's a huge rush. We have free rent for our 2 pieces of machinery. Yes, it'll be closer, but there's no need to do this. There's a perfectly good option in Prior Lake we can do for half or less than this. I just think it's highly inappropriate.
Mr. Mayor, Council, the one note I would make is you are required to have your city offices within the city limits.
It's at City Hall.
Temporarily for, while this was under construction. Yep.
But you had an election. Yeah, people voting there.
No.
Yeah,
did not vote at Prior Lake City Hall.
What is temporary?
Yeah, what is, if it's temporary, could you just say that again? So we have to have our city offices
And
in
we were
the city
the
limits.
township at the time, by the way.
Yeah. City, the city hall, the city offices need to be within the territorial limits of the city.
Well, we have the meetings here. Are you saying that the finance director has to be in this city? I mean, we let them
No.
work at home.
No, I'm not saying that at all.
Okay.
But if you have well, before remote technology, we always had a physical building. But to the extent you have a physical building for your city or you're leasing the space, you need to have that in the city. And I only made that note because of the potential for raise for perhaps looking at Prior Lake. It needs to be in the city.
Do you need
But
to-
this building still exists. We can have office hours here.
This building is in the city. You can, yeah, there's nothing wrong with, there's no legal impediment to continuing to do business in this building.
Okay. But we could have a building in a different city as long as we have city hall being in the city.
We may need to take a deeper dive on that depending on the use of that building, but for example, the city hall where the city clerk is at, we wouldn't put that outside of the city. Renting a space for a grader, that's probably not a big deal. But what exactly what we're doing, as I understood what's on the agenda, it would be taking everything except for like council chambers and moving it to a leased space. Under that scenario, that lease space would need to be within the city.
What about if it's on a temporary basis where we're remodeling this facility and we just need some office space temporarily? And then they're moving back into this, once it's remodeled? That's why I thought we were looking at office spaces, that it was, we're gonna talk about this at the workshop next month, we'll talk about it now, but what, do you know, or do you need to?
Yeah, I would need to look into just how far we can stretch temporary, a 5-year lease, I'm not sure about. A construction season is a different
Construction
deal.
season.
Yeah, I'm guessing, but I'd guess that's okay, but I would like to research that. There aren't a lot of cities, we're not a township anymore. There are a lot of cities where there aren't any other commercial opportunities in the territorial limits. So might be, we're a little bit unique in that way, and finding the answer, I'd rather not guess. I need to look into that.
Okay, could we ask the city administrator to ask the city attorney to look into that? Thank you.
So another question, why did we waste all the time last meeting? It was just procedurally, just to make everyone happy, because we spent all that time trying to get air, soil, everything to make sure we were good, and now scrap that? Just seems, what a waste. I'm tired of going around in circles on issues that there's no intention to do. So either let's do what we say we're gonna do, or let's just not pretend anymore. And please don't applaud, because that's what I'm trying to do. I'm just really tired of doing this charades where we're not really doing what we're saying we're doing. We had plenty of time to bring this up last time to say, here's some other options, and it was never brought up. To now to be in the agenda, to be talking about approval or denial of a lease, when we didn't even have an opportunity to talk through it. You had so many opportunities to do it.
It wasn't ready at the time, Abe.
You could have said, here's some other options. Why are we wasting our time talking about this if there's
Because
no
I'm bringing the
intention to
option
say?
up tonight.
Then we talked about making a discussion, not on the lease agreement.
Well, it doesn't.
And it got voted down to not have a discussion, just to go to a lease, yes or no? Come on, I really struggle with it. I didn't get in this seat to have this type of discussion. Very disappointed. And I think one other person could actually vote and say, it makes sense to have a discussion about this before we blindly go through a lease and say yes when we don't know what that actually is going to mean.
You answered those questions on that list I gave you, which you know that.
I did.
Did you send it to me?
Sure.
Send them to me too. I don't know anything about this.
Another 60 days. Anytime.
That's what we should be doing. We should be going out and seeing what the best offer is, not taking one offer and not looking at any other opportunity. Don't play out.
Leroy.
But there aren't really any other buildings to be able to move into in Credit River.
Can I say something?
What's the need right
And,
now?
and to yours, the committee came back and said that the air, the septic was all okay, we could do all this stuff without any looking into it. Well, we looked into it. There are issues, so
So what's it gonna cost to fix it?
I don't know yet.
I bet you it's not $400,000.
Excuse me, order.
So. And we sign the agreement, at least we get out of the thing. You know, it's just to hold the space would be nice.
I didn't see any clause in there to get out of that.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
My wife and I were on a vacation here for the week and I got back in and turned on was able to actually get some coverage and everything else on Sunday. So I got the agenda. I actually had a bunch of texts that all dinged up and started reading when I got home last night. Basically what was there. I reviewed the lease. And needing more information, I actually called the lesser today and went out and looked at space. Went through some of the things in the lease and asked about those. What I learned was it's his boilerplate lease. There isn't any negotiation that's been done on this at all. I have a problem with the number of pieces in the lease, but the more I look at this, I actually think that this is a good idea and it solves a lot of present and future problems that we have. And it allows us time, mostly time, to actually do something good with everything else that we need. And this should cover any needs that we have to develop in, say, the next 10 years. One of the first things on the lease that I asked about was that it's only 5 years, which is good for commercial. It allows us to get out in 5 years. What I think we should do is add an option at our option to extend the lease at least another 5 years or a period of time based on the increments of his deal, which had some escalation in rent for inflation, et cetera. And I asked him if that might be possible to do that. He said there wouldn't be any problem in writing that in. I had a number of other issues, and I think most of them he would be amicable to change or to do something with. I looked at the space and it is essentially a white box. It comes with a 200 amp service. It comes with a bathroom. It comes with a mop sink. It comes with a demising wall and a firewall to divide the two spaces completely, where there would be industrial use and employee use. It comes with 2 separate HVAC systems, providing heat for the back and HVAC and fresh air in the front. It's
What are you paying for all these additional?
Excuse me, Kathy, let Jay has the floor.
okay. So it has all of these things in it. It is also a fully sprinklered building, which will help with the insurance. I asked about signage because it's kind of back in the back 40. And we would probably have to have a little extra signage there to show how to get back to it. It has ample parking. It has a lot of the things. It has a full sewer system. The lease is stated in the packet, which includes all the community charges and everything else, which are for sewer maintenance, snow plowing, everything else. It's a full deal. That's what we get if we do this. Then additionally, it would be delivered in a move-in condition. If we wanted to take it just the way it is, it would be occupiable. It would have a bathroom. It basically they could move in a few desks and partitions and occupy it that way. That's not what was intended. I saw from the sketch. The sketch is just schematic. I would suggest that we put a break room closer to the bathroom so that there's less cost on that. I had some assurances, however, we would probably need to look at it a little bit more, that the HVAC is aggressively sized, so that we may or may not have to add a little bit of additional cooling for the offices, but you know, that would be a build out expense. As far as partitioning, there is a full 200 amp service. There are lights. You know, we would have to add some more. My guesstimate, rapidly putting it together, is somewhere around $80,000 to finish the inside. To what we need. I went back through it. You know, you can laugh all you want, but I did this for 45 years. Okay. Yeah, you could. You're out of order. So, but that's actually, you know, my thoughts on it. It could expand up to maybe 130,000, depending on what we do with this. What this does for us is it provides a secure occupancy for all present and any future employees during that period of time. And it's next to other occupied businesses that will be there. There's nobody in it yet. The building is about a month to 2 months from finishing. So it makes a safe place for that. It provides storage of city-owned equipment and allows for future items as needed. If we wanted to buy a mower, we could be able to put the thing in there. If there's other things that we want to do, if we want to put our street signs that we have there, if we wind up with an addition that has sewer and water to Lakeville and we need to provide a few water meters and things like that, that's where that can fly in, and we can do that. As what we wind up with is fully ADA compliance facilities. We can add a vestibule entrance into the thing so that we can have a secure building and a counter space where clerk can conduct business without letting anybody into the building, fully into the building. As I said, the building is fully sprinklered. The current city hall, depending on what we find out completely with, I know that they had the air test this morning. On that, I know that there were some issues with that. Just verbally, we haven't seen an actual air test. I was talking to the administrator this afternoon. We can keep this building then as our council chambers and for voting. We can also now have a place to fully securely store our voting machines where they're not in the county's hands, where they're under our control. That can happen here now. Provided we can do the rest of it. We could use we can use both of these as a meeting and a public place, provided the rest of this stuff comes through that we're checking to be okay. It looks like it may. As far as renting this thing, it's definitely a cheaper way to go. It provides us for about 10 years if we wanted to do that. And as far as lease modifications, I think those can be worked out with him, and he was amicable to that. If we wanted to wait, and do that, get an ironclad lease to say yes or no to, I'm amicable to vote for this, but I'm not fully happy with where it is right now. So that's my input.
Do you have any thoughts?
I think we should move ahead with it. So.
I can give Mary.
I think, you know, I think an opportunity, as Jay suggested, that there's, you know, probably some things yet to work out, and probably some nailing down some items more around what the build out might look like, that before we approve it would be a good idea to look at and bring back as a full package.
he was amicable to doing that, I think. But there are other people that are looking at the space.
Right.
I want to make I disagree with city council members going out and negotiating on behalf of the city without the full city council authorizing you to go out doing these things.
We're not negotiating anything. We're doing research on a solution.
Yeah.
It
It's
is
not
not our
negotiating.
job to do that. It is the city administrator's job to do that. And you haven't gone out and looked at other opportunities besides this one.
I could save you thousands.
Excuse me, sir. This is not an open public forum at hearing at this time. I do request that you remain quiet at this time.
So just to reiterate, my motion was to not have a vote and have a discussion. And now it seems like that's what we're back to.
No, that's not
So
necessarily.
we're gonna vote on this lease. And just to be clear, we're gonna vote on a lease that we don't know what the true cost is gonna be to the city.
Nobody's
That's
made a
what we're
motion.
saying.
Nobody's made a motion to vote on the lease, sir.
Okay.
Nobody's made a motion on that. I was just suggesting at this time that there's an opportunity for some further information gathering.
Right, which would be a discussion.
That's fine. If it ended in discussion, that's fine that it ended in discussion. It doesn't mean that that had to be predetermined at the beginning of the meeting.
Okay. I'm a hard no.
You know where I'm at.
I think we're just shooting ourselves in the foot. We have a work session with a group that took a lot of time and is willing to spend more time with us and give us more discussion points. We don't know what the soil and air, maybe we do. No, I haven't heard any. So if there's an issue, well, what's that gonna cost? Is it, what I think I heard before was we might need to get an air filter. That's gonna be less than $400,000. So we just, it seems so premature to be rushing into something like this. I actually don't mind having the conversation. We should have a discussion on all the options. But why would we go here when we don't know what the issues are here?
Again, I bring it to the council as an opportunity, as a solution for an issue that between our employees and other residents we've heard is an issue. I bring it as an opportunity for a solution.
I see it as a solution the more I look at it.
If we need more research on it, I'm fine with putting it off today and not voting on it today and covering some of the other details. Please.
So can I make another motion to table? Or have we
Tried that one already.
We've already been, okay, scratch that.
Mr. Mayor, council members, if the idea was walking through the parliamentary moves here, it's on the agenda as an action item so that it's discussed, but you do have the right to vote on it tonight. That doesn't mean you have to vote on it tonight.
Correct.
You can lay it on the table and bring it back again with there being no motion and no vote. Or you can have a formal vote to continue the matter to the next meeting or to a specific time that you choose. Given the various voices on the council on this, I would recommend that whatever you do is by motion at this point.
I'll make a motion to table this subject pending further answers to some of the questions arrived around the cost and other pieces of it and brought back at a further future date.
Second.
Motion is second to table this tonight. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. We'll move into 7.6, 2026 general fund and debt service discussion. Finance Director Iverson.
Well, before you, Mayor and Council, it's just a preliminary look at the general fund and the debt service fund. They affect tax levy. The other thing is also the capital outlay that we will talk about at the next meeting when we work on the CIP. So these are two pieces, of the budget that we need to look at because we have to, certify a preliminary levy by September 30th. So by your second September meeting, we need to adopt a levy. We don't necessarily have to adopt the budget, but we do have to adopt the levy. We can still work on the budget and we can work on the levy up until December when we have to certify it. But the only caution is that what you want to make sure now is that we set it high enough that we have given ourselves room to work because we can lower it, but we cannot increase it after we adopt the preliminary levy in September. So what I did is I put together some worksheets as a starting point for discussions that we can refine and revise over the next months, but we just need to have some kind of idea of what our levy will be. So I started with the general fund, the debt service funds, they're already set in our debt service documents, what it is. One of them is falling off, so there won't be any levy next year, and the other two are on there. And so we know what that number will be, and then whatever we end up with at this general fund operating levy, and then it'll be the capital when we talk about the capital at the next meeting. So I put together your budget, the short time I've been here trying to get familiar with everything. I don't know what all your history is. So what I did is I put together 2 years of actual. I put in your adopted 25 budget. I put in your actual as of June 30th. And then I kind of went through by looking at what your actual has been the last couple of years, things that I know that can come up and that fluctuate. And I did find some documents from last year's budget discussion where you had talked about a 5% levy increase. And that was based on last year's stuff. I didn't increase it for what's going on in inflation or or anything like that. I did put a 3% COLA on the wages. And I wasn't quite sure. I did have a question in there too. I'm not sure, what kind of consulting costs you have. If you have, have you done a pay equity? Did you pay equity reporting yet?
I haven't done it.
Okay, because normally, sometimes you have to hire a consultant for that, sometimes you don't. So I mean, those are the type of things that you need to think about when we fill this out and where we need to add costs, for those type of things. So I tried to put those questions on the side, and there's things too with the public works that I figured Shane would probably know, or you would probably know better about what, what cost we should fill in there. So that's the starting point that I have for the budget. So I don't know who wants to start walking through if they had questions, if you've all had a chance to look at it. This isn't the last time you're going to see it, but I needed a starting point for it.
Okay, council members, questions, comments? Did you sound like you had something? No?
I have lots of them, but I don't know if we want to do all those tonight.
Why not?
Do I work with the city administrator and finance director offline and just tell them my comments, because this could take hours.
I'd like to hear them.
Number one.
Sorry, everybody else. Hang on, Leroy.
Sorry.
Bill, if I could interrupt, usually previous years, we would get, well, I requested something like this because this thing keeps going out, but so I could sit down and look at everything and mark things down, and then we set up a time to go back to discuss this one-on-one to go over this, or 2 people at a time. And, in the next month, few weeks, whatever.
2 weeks.
2 weeks, I hear you.
Yeah, that's totally doable. If you want to go home and you want to look at it and look at what my questions are, and you know best the different types of things that you're looking at and what consulting, like if you have to do a pay equity report, we know we have to do that. Then, we have to, look at, do we need to look at putting some consulting costs in for that? If there's some road type things that need to be done, or you have budgeted some. I asked Shane to look at the public works piece because he would know more on seal coating and maintenance and things like that. That we would need, but totally, you don't have department directors here for me to work with, so it's basically, both Steve and I are really new to the city. And so we basically put it together by looking at what we saw the actuals were and what we knew. But I think that's totally acceptable if you each look at it and if you want to meet with us and talk, and then we can combine everybody's things and put things in, and then we can talk about what's reasonable, what's not reasonable. Because that's basically what would happen if we were in a city with department heads, is we would put this together and then we would come back and then we would look at what it is. And then start looking at things, you know, and talk about priorities.
Because we could be here till midnight. So.
Mr. Mayor.
Peter.
I'm sorry to be intervening in this meeting more than once, but the legal rules around when council as individuals are interacting with staff, particularly if we're gonna get to multiple council members interacting with staff, had my radar up. I believe it's totally fine for council to send their questions to staff. But to start giving opinions about, I think this might be reasonable, or that might, any kind of interactive process needs to be in a public forum, which is why I'm gonna use a bad word, why a lot of cities do a workshop around the budget at some point in this cycle.
And Steve and I did talk about that too. We know that you don't like to have workshops.
I like to have workshops.
You should.
But
We
we really feel like a workshop would be more productive. So if each of you could send us your ideas, we could put this in.
Mhm.
We could get Shane's input in, and then we could have a workshop where we discuss it.
Love that. That works.
I think that'd be more appropriate, given the time constraints of a council meeting.
I think we should have multiple workshops.
gonna tell us we
I just need to change his word from send me your ideas to send me your questions. You cannot be giving her anything like
Okay.
direction, or I'd like to see this, or I'd like to see that. All of that needs to be in the public. But the questions that she needs to be prepared to answer, so you can have an efficient, smooth workshop, or however you do it, that's super helpful in advance.
Yes.
But it's not an idea exchange.
No,
Or we might
his
have a
words are better
stereo
than mine.
Thanks, Dad.
No,
You're
you're totally
good.
fine.
Steven, Sue, can I make one additional question before we have the workshop? Can you also create a spreadsheet that shows the fund balance, beginning of year, revenues, expenditures, transfers in and out, end of year fund balances, so we can see how the fund balances change with our revenues and expenditures that we are?
Yeah, what I'm actually doing is I am now working on the special revenue funds and the other funds, but I'm trying to put together also a 10 to 15-year forecast, and that will show. I only got stuff from the county on Thursday or Friday, and so that's what my plan was, is to work on a long range plan. So that will show you your beginning, ending fund balances and kind of the effects of the tax rate, those type of things. So that is what I'm trying to get done in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, okay. And
So I
even
think
if-
that would be helpful for your workshop,
Yeah.
is to have all of that. Because what you really need to do for this meeting in September is you're really trying to set a levy, a target. You don't have to refine all of this, so we can have workshops in October and November. Hopefully, I hope we do. It's more productive to have budget workshops. And then we have to do the truth and taxation hearing in December, and then you will adopt your final budget. We can go down, but we can't go up, so it's a good idea if we talk through some of this so that we don't start too low and then find out we're in trouble.
Yep, absolutely.
We have a very healthy reserve though, and I understand that point if you have no cushion. So I'm a proponent for trying to be as accurate as we can and reasonable, but not adding a cushion just for the sake of adding a cushion, and we can lower it later on. It won't, because of the reserve balance we do have today. In history, and I can send you something that I've looked at from the financial reports, we almost always underestimate the revenues we receive, and we almost always overestimate the expenses we expect to spend. So we're always building up our reserve.
Well-
And so that was my point.
Right, and part of that is that you should think about building your reserves because it does affect, if you start using your reserves, that's when you use your reserves, it's one-time money.
Yep.
So you use your reserves to balance an operating budget. It's not a matter of when, it's like when you're gonna double-digit increase your taxes because you're continuing, an operating budget is year over year over year. If you use one-time money in there, that one-time money's gone. You want to use one-time money for one-time things. The other thing I'll caution you is in my 28 years, I have twice seen where the recession hit. And once happened to be in, if you remember 2007, 2008, we set our preliminary budgets in September. The economy took a dive by the time we did final budgets and nobody knew how they were going to balance their budgets and the things that we had to cut off by December. And so that's one caution. You don't know when the economy is going to do that. So I always just caution that, I'm not saying you artificially go, oh, we're gonna say 20% and get it down to 5. I'm just saying, we need to be reasonable, but you don't want to. You want to give yourself a little bit of room there in case, there's a number of outstanding things you guys are looking at doing. Even the conversations you've had tonight. And so some of that could change. You might not know that yet in 2 weeks. And so I just caution that you cannot increase it, but we can decrease it.
Understood.
All right, so calendar wise, when do you guys want to talk about budget workshop?
My calendar's open.
No more
No,
overland trips?
well, it broke, so I can't afford it. Well,
How soon can this stuff be ready?
I think I would like at least 2 weeks.
Okay, so
First week of September?
first or third? First?
Versus Labor Days, how about the second?
Second week or the second day,
Oh,
Tuesday,
September
second or
2nd.
the,
Oh, that would be our city council meeting.
no,
wouldn't
we're, actually, it's the 8th is the council meeting.
Oh, okay.
So the second, the third, that Tuesday, Wednesday is open.
Yep.
Same.
If we could make it a light city council on the 8th, that'd be great. Just do a workshop after.
On the 8th?
You could do it afterwards, or you could do it at 5 o'clock.
that's all for sure.
Well, the only problem with that is that if we need more time, then
Yeah, you probably lose effective discussion after an hour of it anyways.
Yeah.
So I think if you take pieces of it,
but if you're starting it at 5 and the council meeting starts at 6,
right,
people are coming in, you're talking about 45 minutes.
50, I mean, you can go right up to the end.
Right? Everybody thinks that they can get it all done. I know that too.
I mean, Abe is 5
Yeah, 5's fine by me.
on the 8th.
We won't get it done.
Well, we're not gonna get it done in one session anyways.
Right.
I mean, I think we need to take this in pieces.
What we
The only thing that we need to be conscious of is that we need to set that.
When does the levy have to be set?
So our last meeting in September is the 22nd. That's our last scheduled meeting.
So that would be the next meeting.
Correct.
From the 8th.
From the 8th, correct.
Yeah.
And just keep in mind, we don't need to go over the sewer funds, but we do need to go over the capital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you have a piece of your levy is the capital levy, so we do have to look at the CIP. So once we talk about the CIP, then I can put all that into here and then we will have numbers. So I don't know if you want 1 meeting or 2 meetings.
Any opportunity we can walk back to, again, I think even Bill suggested, September 2nd, 3rd or something like that. Is that any of those evenings available to anybody for?
One hour's time.
No.
I don't think
So, so
A couple.
Can we get a couple? I'm fine that week.
yeah, so am I.
Bill, you used the first hour of yours.
Sorry, Leroy,
No,
it's the nature of my being.
Yeah, I'm available 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Yeah.
I'll be out of town on the second. I could do the third or fourth.
Third is good.
Yep, third or fourth's good with me.
6 o'clock.
Okay. Third, 6.
Yep.
2 hours.
So then, Sue, you need questions to you by the end of this week?
The end of this week, beginning of next week. I mean, I've got a lot of this done and I'm working on the long range plan.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't need them this week, but next week, so that we can incorporate it in to get something back out to you.
All right, so, who wants to make that motion, setting that workshop?
Well moved.
I'll second it for the third at 6 o'clock.
Now, are we also doing the 8th for an hour?
We can add that to the agenda, otherwise later if we have the next.
Yeah.
Well, for posting and notification periods,
Oh. For the agenda?
I'm just thinking, so we'd have to, so you're saying on the Wednesday, the 3rd, decide if we want to come in early on the 8th?
No, I'm thinking set it up now,
Yeah,
and always cancel it, and at least that way notice can be given.
Okay. So, all right, so the motion, J, is to set a council workshop for budget purposes on September 3rd, 6 p.m.
Correct.
and September 8th
At
5 p.m.
5 p.m.
Still seconded.
Perfect. Motion is second to set the 2 council budget workshops, September 3rd, 6 p.m., September 8th, 5 p.m. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Sue, any other
No,
action on this tonight?
Nope.
All right, any other council members, questions, comments on this tonight before we move on? All right, we'll move on to staff and council member updates, and I'll look to my right. We'll start at the end with legal. Administrator, Abe,
No.
Leroy.
No.
Tomorrow night, Creekwood Park meeting, 6 p.m. in the Creekwood Park. The only other thing, just was it 2 weeks ago, scale, general membership meeting. Jay, I think you were there, and I know Bill was there, but good presentation on fire services in Scott County, how it's been evolving and you know, how it may evolve even further. That's the first of 2 sessions. Other than that, that's all I've got.
Yeah, that was the scale meeting had discussion on Scott County Fire Services. And it was a really, really, really good discussion. Unfortunately, I don't think they recorded it, but I think we're gonna ask them to record again. The PowerPoint is available. The administrator, you have that. I think you sent that to me, and you're gonna post it on the website? The next meeting will be a continuance of that. Hopefully they'll record the actual meeting. I think it was very informative.
Bill,
I have nothing to add.
Sue,
I don't have anything else.
Shane?
Yeah, just a quick update, construction projects, we have 2 developments actively under construction, Lake Estates and also the Ranch Second Edition. And then on the turn lane project, on the south, we have the utility conflicts. So the update now is the electric poles are moved out, they're out of the way. Last week, Nuvera was in, they moved their communications out of the way. I just spoke with the contractor today for the gas company, and they're gonna be on site, or the schedule to be on site next Wednesday to move the gas main out of the way, hopefully by the end of the week. So everything's kind of slowed down by the rain, but
So there was a concern before school starts. You think that project will be done? No?
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully they make it before snow at this point.
yeah, I mean, really, on the south side, I mean, really on the north side at Broadview Drive, the actual construction of, the dirt work and that, it's only been going on for a while.
Mhm.
But we still have a lot of work to do. There's a lot more common embankment that has to be, brought into the site. And then after that, there's a layer of sand, gravel, and then paving. I just don't think that's all gonna happen within the next 2 weeks. 3 or 4 weeks, maybe, but not for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. All right,
Gotta make the motion to adjourn, please.
motion adjourned.
Well, second.
Second by Schomer, motion by Zanto, second by Schomer, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Have a good evening.
I think it's gonna be held up. No. Are you?
Linda, are you ready?
That boy, next down, I'm gonna get another slice. 10 here, 20, and what's, everything out here, you know. Usually the first 2 United States.